Hello and welcome to another true crime stream. We're back. We are back. I'm back. And I think I'm ready to cover another case, even though this one is... It's gonna be tough because it connects to the recent controversy on social media, like the recent scandal that broke out on social media and just like on the news. Specifically around, like, circling around the so-called grooming gangs in the UK. So that's what we're gonna cover today. Well, I mean, one case, but I will kind of expand on that. I'm gonna talk about the like what's happening, and I will, you know, address some of the things that are happening right now, some of the things that are being discussed on social media, and it's well, it's not great. William Blowers, hello Sona, hi Sona. Why did I read it as hello Sona? But hey, hi, hey Sona. I know this one, and I know it's gonna be painful for you to cover this one. But I think, but thank you for covering it all the same. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now that when I was searching for information in this case, about this case, the specific one that I'm gonna cover today, it was, and I don't know if this is in any way related to what's happening now and what's being, like, you know, at the in the hot seat right now in the UK, but it was hard. It was harder to find the names. It was harder to find certain information, and it was hard to find photos of certain people. And I don't really have those photos. I found some photos. I had to dig a lot to find certain photos, and it's never, I have to say, it was never that hard for me to find photos of, like, potential suspects, or in that many cases. I think there was, like, maybe one other case when I was, like, having a hard time finding photos of the suspect. But yeah, UK currently is pretty chaotic. Some things are happening, some things are being brought back to light, and certain politicians are being accused of certain things, of not handling a lot of cases, a lot of horrible cases with enough care because of political correctness or fear of being accused of being, like, racist. And, you know, this, I don't know, like, I'm gonna talk about it, but yes, they are, you know, in the hot seat for not handling cases and not protecting victims properly, not pursuing suspects aggressively enough because of their ethnic background or religious background. And I'm gonna talk about it, but let's dive into the case in just a minute. But before we actually get to the case, I'm gonna tell you guys that I woke up today with, well, I don't want to say splitting headache, but I did wake up with a headache. And I'm kind of afraid because one of my family members said that they probably caught something on the plane back to Taiwan. That worries me, you know, because yeah, like, I thought it was common cold. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe you got cold or something. But then now I'm having some symptoms. Like, today I started, like, having a headache, and I'm like, oh, oh no, is this corona? Is this, like, again, third time? Because I had COVID, like, twice already. I think twice at least. Did you catch a cold in New York? I think it was on the plane, because I was completely fine in New York. But, you know, I'm worried a little bit that, hey, it just kind of transferred to me, and yeah, you know. Why are we at the theme park? Well, this is actually one of the piers in Blackpool, and it's a town. It's a city in the UK. It's a seaside town in the UK, which is actually the topic of today's case. And also, Shadow J, thank you so much for joining Even Angrier Mob. Thank you so much for being a member. Enjoy. Thank you so much. So welcome. I've never caught the COVID for some reason. Well, you're lucky. You're one of the lucky ones. Or maybe you caught it, but you didn't have any symptoms. Because actually, I did have friends who had COVID, who tested positive, but they didn't have any symptoms. Like, they didn't feel anything. And I'm like, you lucky bastards. Because every time I'm sick. Like, if I catch COVID, I'm sick. Like, I get fever the first day. It's 2:07 in Poland. Hey, as usual. Sorry. I apologize for streaming at some like ungodly hour in Poland, in some places in the world. Okay, guys. So I'm just, I don't wanna. That's why I didn't really like this week. I don't really have a schedule, because I don't know where I can stream. I don't know how I'm gonna feel. Especially like with jet lag, I'm waking up on some weird hours. I'm waking up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and I can't sleep, and I pass out at 8 p.m. So yeah, I'm also 89, so I guess that's normal. I guess I'm heading towards that age where where I should go to sleep at like 7 p.m. and wake up at 3. or 4, and I'm like, yeah, that's my day now. I'm approaching the age of my grandparents, so you're young. 85, 89. I thought you were 90. Oh wait, was I 90? No, I'm forever 89. It's okay. You know the brand Forever 21. I'm forever 89. I can be forever Clint Eastwood and just a grandma. It's okay. All right, so that's pretty much it. That's why I wanted to tell you guys that, hey, I don't really have a schedule for this week because well, I don't know what's gonna happen. I might collapse and I don't know, maybe I have corona. I'm gonna be sick. No, I hope not. I hope I won't be sick, but you know, I'm kind of battling the jet lag and just having a hard time sleeping and just seeing what's happening. The world is on fire and I don't know what to cover, and who knows what's gonna come up. But we will have a couple more streams this week for sure. Just like without schedule, I'll be scheduling them like a day ahead, and for sure I'm gonna be posting about it. So if you follow me on Twitter, that's where I usually post. I'll obviously check the community tab, because I usually post updates in my community tab, and Discord. Okay, I've experienced jet lag. It's not pretty. It is not, especially if you really like wake up for. I used to have it for much longer than now. Now I adjust faster, but I used to like spend a whole week just sleeping at different like weird hours of the day and like waking up at weird hours of the day. So there's that. Might not be as bad this time. I'm trying to really like readjust and just switch back to normal normal Taiwan time. Baxter, thank you so much. Think about it. We are the oldest we've ever been. Yeah. Well, at one point, we were the youngest person. Each one of us was the youngest person in this world. Think about it. That's actually amazing. Like when you were born, the moment you were born, to a second, you were the youngest person on this planet. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. I'm old? Nah, it can't be. It cannot be. But yes, it's true. Yeah, that's true. See, that's kind of amazing. But we were like the youngest person on this planet. Yeah. And that's it. And then for like a split second, and then it's done. Also, Shy, I still am at heart. Sure. I'm in my 20s. I'm not that old. Yeah, you're young. You're a baby. It's okay. Well, but adult baby. No, wait. That sounds bad. That sounded horrible. Well, as long as you're an adult, you can be in the chat. If I discover that you're underage and you're a kid, I'm sorry, but you will be blocked immediately, and please leave my stream because, well, this is for mature audiences and it's some graphic content and mature audiences only. So fair warning, I do, you know, adult content, or, well, I mean, not adult content. That's kind of, that's a bad way to say it. Not the bad way to say it. It's kind of misleading because I don't do like adult content. I just do some pretty gruesome stuff. Well, cover, not do. I don't do that, but I cover. Oh my god. FBI, please spare me. I don't do any of this, okay? Okay, for the record, I'm not committing crimes. I don't commit crimes. No, none of that. I am a law-abiding citizen. Oh my god, is it hot in here? Sona wording. I know. I'm feeling a little bit hot. Oh, Agent Smith, I'm so sorry. This is that's not the only, not the first nor the last time that I'm gonna like word things weirdly. It is what it is, okay? Oh my god. Well, there were those spicy wallpapers. Okay, that's like some spicy wallpapers, like the Christmas one that I just drew for the Christmas for December for Patreon. So if you are a Patreon member in the gold, platinum, ruby, or diamond tier, then you have access to this wonderful wallpaper and all the other ones. So you can go to my Patreon and scroll down and see what wallpapers you can download. You can get. Enjoy. Okay. Oh, Google Gaga. No, Joshua, why? But thank you for the supa. Oh my god. Why do I always do this to myself? Like, why do I always like word things in a weird way and then it just sounds very, very bad? It's like, wow, that sounded bad. Okay, FBI. There's gonna be like, FBI, open up. Like, oh no. No, please. Please, I swear, I'm just an anime girl. I don't do nothing. Okay. Okay, guys, I think it's time we can jump right into it. And yeah, let's jump right into it. Let's do this. Also, Baxter, thank you so much for another super. Hey, disregard what I just typed. It was a typo. Wait, I didn't. Oh, 20th super chat on stream. Hey, congratulations, 20th super chat. Okay. So today we're diving into a haunting case that shook the seaside town of Blackpool, a place often known for its lively broadwalks and bustling piers, like the one behind me that's actually in Blackpool. This is the story of Charlene Downes, a 14-year-old girl whose disappearance in November 2003 exposed a harrowing truth about the town, not to mention it is one of the many cases at the center of UK's so-called grooming gang scandal that has taken over social media in recent weeks. And I will talk about the scandal a little bit after the case, well, at the end of the case. So if you want to hear about it, you can stay till the end. Obviously, I encourage you to stay till the end because this case is important. Important to hear, important to cover. But first, we're gonna talk about Charlene. So it was a mild evening in early November 2003. I believe it was November 1st, 2003. And Charlene Downes, a bright, bubbly teenager, kissed her mom goodbye and headed out with a friend. Her destination was Blackpool's North Pier, a popular spot for locals and tourists alike. And it was a normal thing for Charlene to hang out with friends, in that spot for a couple of hours and then return home. But Charlene would never make it back home that night. Let me tell you a little bit more about Charlene herself first. So Charlene was born on March 25th, 1989 in Coventry, England. She moved with her family to Blackpool in 1999. She was known for, the town was known for its bustling nightlife and tourist attractions. Blackpool also had areas of lower socioeconomic standing. So even though it was a touristy town, Blackpool definitely had, you know, those areas for tourists, those like shiny, you know, glowing areas with glowing lights and a lot of foot traffic and a lot of like just things happening, right? Like clubs, restaurants, theaters, whatnot. But then there was a different side of Blackpool, you know, different part of Blackpool that had basically like those kind of areas with like lower socioeconomic standing, including the neighborhood where Charlene and her family lived. This is actually a picture of Charlene's family's home. The one on the right, I believe, is this one. And okay, so this is gonna sound weird. I found out that this building was supposedly used to be like a club of some sort, like adult kind of club. So this was the house, and then right next to it, it used to be some kind of adult establishment. So you can see, like, it was kind of, you understand like what I mean, right? Like by, oh, you know, it was, you know, there was a lot of adult entertainment in Blackpool, and then like it was kind of right next to those like poorer areas in the city. Okay, so see, poverty levels in Blackpool were high and are high. It is actually the 12th poorest area in the entire country, and it does have an influence on children. Charlene herself was described as a lovely, cheeky, bubbly girl, and she seemed, quote, well and happy, end quote. Although, as later found out, she struggled with chaotic home life. Well, that's also, quote unquote, chaotic home life, which isn't exactly detailed. Like, I had a hard time finding it. Why was her family life chaotic, supposedly? The sources don't really mention it. They just say like, oh, she had a chaotic home life. But I'm like, okay, but why? What happened there? Like, can you be specific? Like, because there can be many different reasons to describe the someone's life at home as chaotic, right? Like, it's just like, I need specifics. But, you know, at first glance, I couldn't find it. But then I managed to find something. So Charlene's father, Robert, was an ex-soldier, a man who often dressed in black and carried himself like a bouncer, which was actually his job for a while. Bob was known for his volatile temper, like violent temper, prone to fits of shouting and aggression. His rage often caused problems. In one instance, Bob's temper boiled over when a social worker visited the family. Unable to control his anger, he actually, like, reportedly threw potatoes at the social worker, of all weapons. I'm sorry for laughing, but just like the first thing you grab, I get it. Like, I mean, it's good that it was potatoes and, you know, nothing much more like, I don't know, like sharper, like a knife or something, or something much more dangerous. It was just potatoes, but still, you know, like, he grabbed potatoes and he started throwing them at the social worker. And that incident, that like meltdown, like Bob's meltdown, led to their son, Robert Jr., being removed from the home by social services, who deemed Bob a danger to the child. But there were more children, right? Like, there was Bob, there was Robert Jr., there was Charlene. I think she had two sisters, Becky and Emma. So it's not like it was just one child that was in danger, if this is true, and if Robert is having all those like violent fits. There were more children in that home, so like, what the fuck? But that's what I found about the supposed, like, the chaotic home life, and it was likely this that affected Charlene's behavior and performance at school. And again, I couldn't really find the reason why, but supposedly, like, a lot of sources just simply say that chaotic home life resulted in Charlene getting expelled from her school, from St. George's School. And again, I couldn't find the specific reason, like, why was she expelled from school? Like, because you don't just get expelled, I guess, for like bad grades, like if you're failing everything, maybe. But then like there were no specifics. I was just like, oh, to me, like if you get expelled, like expulsion from school, that results in something like, oh, that is kind of like a last resort. Like you really have to, at least in Poland, I don't know, like you really have to do something bad at school for them to expel you, right? Like I don't know, how is it in your country? Like is it like, do you really have to do something very, very bad, or expulsion is kind of like they do it pretty easily, like even for bad grades or for failing grades, like they just expel you, or is it like, oh, for something much worse, right? Like not just grades, because those can be worked on, but you know, same in USA. Okay, so you really have to do something bad. My theory is she brought a potato to school. Jesus Christ. She was throwing potatoes. I don't know, I don't have specifics, but she was expelled from school. Fabian says, well, in my last high school, if you got into a fight, instant suspension. Yes, right, like suspended. Usually it's like, okay, well, there's like levels, right? Like, okay, I don't know, like you get reprimanded or suspended, right? Like there's levels to your behavior. Like if your behavior is bad, it's still like levels. So warnings, suspension, expulsion is like, you really had to have done something bad. But again, I don't know. I don't have the specifics. Whatever happened there, whatever Charlene did, yeah, resulted in her getting expelled from St. George's School. And that kind of further pushed her to instead, you know, because usually school would take most of her day, like she would be at school. But now with school kind of out of the way, it just further pushed her to instead frequent the area around Blackpool's central promenade and just this touristy area, or like the nightlife area too. And it's again unclear why. Maybe to escape the gloomy reality of her everyday life. Maybe she didn't want to be at home, but then she couldn't be at school, so there wasn't really anywhere else that she could go. So she was just like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be around my dad, so I'm just gonna hang out here. Maybe she just wanted to escape this, the chaotic home life and into the gleaming lights of the touristy promenade. Maybe to seek new friends, since she was expelled from school and couldn't really socialize with her classmates as often. Maybe she wanted to meet some older, like cooler people. There were so many people hanging out there after all. So she could definitely meet some new people, and she was a 14-year-old, so, you know, oh, it would be cooler. It would be cool to have older friends. Well, I didn't find the exact reason, but, you know, maybe, like, I'm gonna shed some light on, like, the possibilities. So Charlene Downes was last seen in Blackpool's town center in this narrow alley lined with fast food takeaways between Talbot Road and Clifton Street. It was a place she and other teenagers frequented, a place that in hindsight was far more dangerous than it seemed, and not an ideal hangout spot. It's not a very glamorous hangout spot, but she was seen there quite often with some other teenagers. And that's actually the last place that she was seen at. And that evening, Karen was handing out flyers. So Karen, that's Charlene's mother. So she was handing out flyers. She was just working for a local Indian restaurant on Church Street, when she spotted Charlene and her sister Rebecca, and this is a screenshot from the CCTV footage, but this is Rebecca, and then this is Charlene, right? Like that's the victim. So Charlene, like she spotted Charlene and Rebecca at around 6:45 p.m. Charlene was always recognizable in her distinctive style. She was wearing a lot of black. That day she was wearing black jeans with a gold eagle design, a black jumper patterned with white diamonds, and black boots. And then Karen spoke briefly with her daughters. Rebecca said that she was heading home, while Charlene mentioned that she had plans to meet with some friends, so she was not heading home just yet. Charlene used a nearby payphone to call them and then stayed with her mom until her friends arrived. So Karen was busy handing out flyers and Charlene was just waiting for her friends. And then Karen noticed that the girls arrived, and you know, like she was, because Charlene was waiting with her, but kind of like, oh, on the side, and Karen was busy handing out flyers. So then Karen watched as the girls walked off together, heading towards Blackpool's Winter Gardens, a local entertainment venue. You can think like theater, comedy shows, other live performances. It was kind of like a mall, but kind of also like a performance hall. So she was, an entertainment center, I guess. So she headed off with the girls toward the Winter Gardens. And, you know, Charlene would usually come home in the evening after a few hours, hang out with her friends. So she would hang out with her friends for a couple of hours, and then she would come home in the evening. But not on that particular day. On November 1st, 2003, she did not return home. And by next morning, her family knew that something was terribly wrong. They called her friends. They called, like, you know, her friends' family homes, asking if, hey, did Charlene stay over at your house? Did she stay over with your daughter? Did she stay over, like, over there? Or, you know, do you know where she is? But everyone said, no, we don't know. She never came here. She was hanging out, like, outside, right? Like, oh, even her friends said, like, no, like, we just separated, and she was supposedly, like, walking home, but she never returned. So the police quickly issued a description of the missing teenager. Charlene, who looked younger than her 14 years, was described as having a warm, childlike smile and shiny dark brown hair. Her mom said she loved a good laugh, the boy band Westlife, and experimenting with fashion. Ah yes, Westlife. Why do I know this? Oh yeah, because I'm old, but also Westlife, yeah. Yeah, if you know, you know. If you know, you're a connoisseur of boy bands from the 90s and early 2000s. Hey. But nothing beats NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. Westlife, yeah. Yeah, you don't know that band? Never mind. You guys are young. You guys, you know, one day someone asks you, like, Grandpa, what is One Direction? And I'm like, oh my God. One day we're all gonna be asked about a band that's like, oh, Grandpa, I've heard this, like, retro, you know, this vintage band called One Direction, or, oh, have you, Grandma, do you know this singer, this, like, oh, very old singer Taylor Swift? And we're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm sorry, excuse me, let me just go away to a funeral home and buy myself a coffin and just lie down and wait, because clearly the death is heading my way. I knew she was gonna say NSYNC, of course, NSYNC. Wait, how did you spell that? NSYNC is just, no. Baxter, that's not how you spell NSYNC, I think. Grandpa, who's Justin and why does he Bieber? Boy, one day, I swear to God, one day, like, we're gonna be like, oh, you know, like, Grandma, do you know this old singer Taylor Swift? Like, yo, I heard that she was very big back in your day. I'm like, I'm sorry, excuse me, let me just like lay down in my grave and die and wait for death. Okay. So Westlife is a One Direction song? What? No, Westlife. It's just one word. Westlife. How do you not know that? Oh my god, you guys, do I have to actually, like, start preparations for my funeral? Is my mom right? Is my mom correct? Was my mom right all this time, and I should be, like, discussing funeral flowers? Like, what do I want? Do I prepare for the inevitable? Jesus Christ. Okay, Sona is gonna be telling a lot of youngsters about the Mothman. I will be preaching till my last moment, till my last breath. I'll be preaching about the Mothman and the Mothman's butt, and everyone should visit Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Go now. Okay, so the timeline of what happened next is pieced together from witness accounts and CCTV footage, which is not really available. I saw Like it's kind of in pictures mostly, so it doesn't really change. Like, oh, you know, like, oh, Joshua, thank you so much for the super. Who is the what, the Baha man, and why did he let the dogs out? Oh my god. But that's such a classic. But yeah, like, you know, I showed you guys this screenshot from the CCTV footage. Even if you watch the footage itself, the video, like, it's not much. It's also kind of like, oh, several screenshots just pieced together, and it doesn't really give you anything else. It's kind of the same. But yes, the timeline was pieced together from witness accounts and CCTV footage. So Charlene and her friends spent some time together before she met another friend later that evening around 9:30 p.m. and the two visited the Carousel bar on the North Pier. And the footage shows, or at least the screenshot, shows someone who appears to be Charlene, while the police kind of piece together that, oh, this person is dressed like Charlene, so it must be Charlene, at the junction of Dixon Road and Talbot Road. So it's kind of from that alley, like right from that alley where she was last seen. She appears to be with a woman in her 30s, unidentified to this day, mind you, who had dyed blonde hair and wore a 3/4 length coat. So it was an adult person just leading Charlene away somewhere. By 10 p.m., Charlene and her friend had returned to town center. At approximately 11 p.m., the friend last saw Charlene near the corner of that alley, right? Like the Talbot Road and I guess like the Abington Street. So it was like on the other side of the alley, the same alley. After that, Charlene simply vanished. So the last time was 11 p.m. on that like Talbot Road, so the back alley with the takeaway places, right? Like the takeout places. The investigation launched quickly, yes, but unfortunately, Charlene's case was treated as a missing persons case for months. Investigators kind of assumed that Charlene was yet another runaway teenager, so they didn't really treat it as seriously as they should have. When questioned, some of Charlene's friends said that they had seen her in the company of middle-aged men, and some appeared to be giving her money. However, the accounts from her friends were often kind of conflicting and puzzling. Interviews with those who had been close to Charlene raised more questions than answers, leaving the impression that some were holding back information. It's like some of their friends were holding back information, like they didn't want to, I don't know, like, why the secrecy? It's like, it's possible that these friends were just reluctant to reveal details about their activities around the same alleyway behind Clifton Street, behind, like, you know, like the Talbot Street and Clifton Street. That's the hangout spot, which was notorious, where like a notorious spot where takeaway workers and young white British girls would often gather. Like, that was the opinion of that spot. And the stigma attached to those interactions may have led those friends to stay quiet, either out of shame or fear of judgment. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit deeper. But yeah, like, it was kind of, you know, how do I say it? Like, the teenagers or locals kind of knew about something going on in that particular area, but then police weren't really doing anything about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the as I watched some like interviews, or as I watched some kind of commentary about this case, it seemed that the locals were aware of something sketchy happening in that alleyway, but even if it was reported, because they were generally from like poorer background, and just, you know, police didn't seem to I don't know, like, to care enough to look into it, or, you know, they were not really doing anything about it, or like they said like, oh, well, I mean, we don't know, that there's nothing suspicious. I don't know, like, oh, it's just, little girls shouldn't be hanging out there. But it's just like, okay, but something's happening, can you look into it? And they were just like, no, not really. Okay, so the reluctance to speak wasn't limited to the girls themselves, as I said. Many of their parents were also hesitant to cooperate with the police. One girl even had a civil servant acting as her responsible adult during questioning, adding a layer of bureaucracy to an already complex investigation. And then there's the environment. So this was Blackpool, after all, a town with its own set of social challenges, as I said. Like it's one of the poorest areas in the UK. One of Charlene's friends was found to have links to a massage parlor, which was a revelation that hinted at the darker kind of undercurrents in the lives of some of these young girls. And again, it just kind of seemed weird that, okay, there are those signs that there's something happening. And to those young girls, or like the young girls are doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and police didn't really seem to care as much to investigate. Among the fragments of information offered by Charlene's friends was one particularly striking detail. Charlene had been carrying a blanket and mentioned that night that she might be sleeping rough. So she was just like, oh, tonight I might be sleeping rough, which is a code for I'm not going back home. Like I'm not gonna go back home. I might be sleeping outside, or, whether this was her plan for the night or just a passing remark, like we may never know. Apparently she just kind of threw it in there. It's also been reported that Charlene had asked a friend if she could stay over at her house that night. Was this simply a practical request? Maybe or was Charlene trying to avoid going home? Because as we know, like some have speculated that she might have been afraid of her father, Robert, whose temper was, he was pretty bad. Like it was pretty bad. So maybe Charlene was not really willing to go home, or did she mean something else by saying like, oh, tonight I'm sleeping rough? Like what does that mean? As the inquiry expanded and over 3,000 people were interviewed, when the police tried to piece together what had happened, they actually realized that they were looking at a much darker picture here, and a highly disturbing pattern. Charlene, like several or dozens other girls, which came out later, but dozens other young girls in the area had been targeted by a certain ring of men in that alleyway, like in that kind of area, the touristy area, and the dark alleyway of Talbot Road and Clifton Street. So these men preyed on vulnerable teens. Like it was discovered that it was kind of a ring. It was kind of connected. Like they weren't strangers to each other. Like they were actually communicating. So they were preying on vulnerable teens, grooming them under the guise of care and attention. But in reality, the young girls were being exploited by them. In Charlene's case, investigators were certain that she had likely ended up SA'd by more than one man, and it was likely happening over an extended period of time before she went missing. And this was not a good sign, because if this was taking place over an extended period of time, and then she suddenly disappears out of nowhere, it means she likely didn't just vanish out of her own free will, because she always would come back home. She would always show up, even if something was happening, like she was always coming back home. But this time she just disappeared. That was not a good sign. Yes, the investigators believed that Charlene had been murdered and her body disposed of, and they shared this information with Charlene's parents in 2005. And finding the perpetrator in Blackpool in this one place was going to be difficult. So that's what the investigators said. It's gonna be difficult. And you know why? Because back in 2005, in Blackpool alone, there was approximately 800 convicted high-risk sex offenders just living among people, many of them interacting with children daily, because this was a seaside town, a touristy town, kind of like entertainment town. Yeah, many of them were just interacting with children daily. They were just free. Many of those sex offenders moved specifically to Blackpool after doing their time in prison. Like that was actually so Wendy Shepherd from children's charity Bernardo's, she explained this. So she said, alongside the increase in child sexual exploitation, there is a marked increase in the sex industry in Blackpool and sex tourism masquerading as stag weekends. Questions need to be asked about the links. According to data compiled by the Coalition for the Removal of Pimping, CROP, Blackpool had become a hotspot within West Yorkshire where, quote, children and young people are sold for sex to older men. Yeah. Wait, what? What the fuck? Yeah. Like Blackpool, like no one talked about it, but Blackpool became one of the biggest hotspots for CSE. And it was concerning that nothing was being done. And it was concerning how high the number of high-risk sex offenders was in Blackpool. Like Blackpool is, okay, it's a big city. It has like 140, I believe 141 or 142,000 residents. Yes, but 800 high-risk sex offenders, that's just high risk. That's concerning. And they were apparently also clustered within Blackpool in like one, you know, like narrower area. So that's not great. That's not good. Okay, and then Aravinda Kosaraju, a researcher for CROP, told The Guardian that, quote, we know that young people from this area are being taken over to Blackpool. If you're 13 or 14 and invited to come for a night out to a club in Blackpool or have a holiday there, it may be hard to resist, end quote. So not only that, but CROP also revealed that a staggering number of those sexual predators and individuals involved in the rape and grooming gangs are men from migrant communities who often work illegally in the country and specifically in the touristy spots like Blackpool in takeaways, which, you know, the alleyway where Charlene was last seen was actually the alleyway of like takeaway places, right? Like takeout food places or something, which is the exact spot that young girls from poorer local families go to in hopes of earning some pocket money. And Detective Inspector Paul Fillett, assigned to Blackpool to look into the child exploitation rings, explained to The Guardian how these predators pick and go after their target. And this is a quote. The common scenario is a young person being befriended by a significantly older male, groomed with small gifts, free food, small amounts of money. They give the young person lots of attention and affection, and when they feel they can get away with it, they sexually assault the young person, making them feel complicit in their own abuse. So they are making the young girls think that it's also their fault. Like, I mean, that's what the grooming is, right? Like they are grooming them to think that, oh, this is okay, or I'm complicit, or oh, I'm gonna get in trouble if I tell anyone because I'm part of this. I agreed to this. I consent. No, you cannot consent. You're below 18 years old or below 16 years old. You cannot consent. You're a child. Yeah, it's horrible. And unfortunately, many such cases were treated by the police as child prostitution. And I mean where the victim was actually treated as a criminal alongside the abuser. Mind you, sometimes the abusers weren't even arrested. The victim was arrested. The victim was arrested as a child prostitute. And yeah, the abusers were just let go. They were not even like they got slapped on the wrist, and then the victim was like named as a child prostitute or something else. Like, it's just, why? How do you come to that conclusion? Like, that's beyond me. Okay. So, and okay, I have to. This has been going all over England for years. Yeah, like this case is from early 2000s. That's 2003. It's been going on for I don't know, 20 something, 30 something years. And many of them, as I said, many of them were just not, like, the perpetrators were not arrested. Many of them were not investigated. Now it's coming out. Now some concerning information is coming out, and I'm gonna talk about it at the end, like after the case. But yeah, like, you guys are gonna, there's gonna be a lot of what the fucks in the chat, because why? Okay, so as Charlene's disappearance was officially reclassified as a murder investigation, the case took a very dark turn and troubling turn. In May 2007, 2 men were brought to trial at Preston Crown Court. And this is where I had a pretty hard time to find pictures. So one of the perpetrators was Iyad Al-Batiki, then 29 years old Jordanian national and owner of the Funny Boys fast food outlet in Blackpool. He was accused of murdering Charlene. His business partner, Mohammed Raveshi, faced charges for helping to dispose of her body, and prosecutors alleged that Iyad had sexually abused Charlene and that the 2 men had joked about disposing of her remains by dismembering Charlene and putting them into kebabs sold at Iyad's shop. I don't know. Also, Taxman, thank you so much for the super. Cops were properly in on it. Were they? Cause let me say this. These 2, they are not in prison. They weren't in prison, or they were not convicted for Charlene's murder. I'll get to that. So it was during their trial that the prosecution played a recording of their conversation, during which Iyad joked that the girl was, quote, chopped up, and that her body was, quote, gone in the kebabs. And then he continued by saying, I killed her, I killed the girl, I was just angry. And the other suspect, Mohammed, was then heard in the recording saying, there is nothing left of her. She was here, she died, there really is nothing. End quote. That was a recording. Also, IDK Bacon, thank you so much for the super joked. Where's the funny? I don't know. Where's the funny part? Because I'm not seeing this. I don't know, like, I don't see the joke. The claims or this recording shocked everyone, but the trial ended without a verdict when the jury couldn't reach a consensus. So these 2, they were never found innocent. The jury couldn't reach the consensus, and I'm gonna explain why. So a retrial was scheduled for April 2008. However, before it could proceed, the case collapsed completely due to significant flaws in the constabulary's covert surveillance evidence, because the majority of this material, of the recorded material, was obtained not by an undercover officer, but by oh god, I can't speak. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of talking about this case. My voice is shaking. So this evidence, the recordings, were not obtained by an undercover trained police officer, but by a police informant, David Cassidy, who recorded the 2 suspects by wearing a wiretap device. And the audio and video evidence were also not properly transcribed. And the police also failed to, like, instead of sending in an undercover officer who is trained, they sent in this informant, Mr. Cassidy, but they failed to, like, properly train him, properly inform him about what questions he can and cannot ask the suspects, right? Which resulted in Mr. Cassidy asking the suspects what court determined as quote-unquote leading questions, and in result, it rendered the evidence inadmissible in court, right? Like, it just threw off, like, all the whole case. The entire case was, like, thrown out because, yeah. So again, those 2, the suspects were not found innocent. It's because of a technicality that the case collapsed. And these errors left the Crown Prosecution Service with no choice but to drop all charges, and both men were released and they walked free. The trial and later the internal police report revealed that Charlene Downes was only one of 60 girls in Blackpool at the time. As it turns out, they fell victims to a network of ethnic Pakistani men working at 11 takeaway shops in the area and targeting dozens of white British girls between ages 11 and 15. And this wasn't the end of controversy for the case. In 2011, Iyad Al-Batiki was convicted of assault after headbutting an 18-year-old woman, further adding to his criminal record. Meanwhile, the fallout from the failed prosecution extended beyond the suspects. The disappearance of Charlene Downes didn't just reveal a horrifying crime, it also exposed deep divisions and systemic issues in the way authorities and society handled cases like hers. Former Detective Superintendent Mick Gradwell made a damning statement about the investigation. According to him, efforts to uncover child grooming networks in towns like Blackpool, Blackburn, and Burnley were hindered by what he described as political correctness. So Gradwell argued that because the victims were predominantly white girls and the perpetrators were often from minority communities, these cases were not pursued as aggressively as they should have been, or as aggressively as similar cases where perpetrators were white. So this is from the Detective Superintendent Mick Gradwell. Like, this is what he said. Like, oh yeah, like that's, at the time he said, hey, we were like, later, like he said, yeah, we were discouraged from pursuing those particular cases. The case also sparked debate about media coverage and censorship. In 2013, journalist Sean Thomas highlighted how Charlene's original Wikipedia page had been deleted back in 2007. So her case could not be found on Wikipedia. And Sean Thomas speculated that this might have been an attempt to erase or downplay parts of the case that could be leveraged by far-right political groups. So he's just like, oh, they're trying to erase this case. The pain of Charlene's loss weighed heavily on her family. In April 2008, just a week after the retrial of two suspects collapsed, Charlene's mother, Karen, stabbed her husband during an argument. And thankfully, the injuries weren't very serious. They were minor, and Robert actually chose to not press any charges. He later described the act as a result of her overwhelming grief and frustration. They were both grieving. They were all grieving an unbelievable tragedy. Guys, it's gonna get worse. Then in September 2009, Charlene's older sister Emma faced charges of racially aggravated assault against the brother of one of the men previously accused in the case. So she actually attacked Tariq Al-Batiki, so Iyad's brother. She allegedly confronted him at a nightclub and slapped him at one point, and she tried slapping him again, but Tariq caught her hand and allegedly said to her, quote, "It's got nothing to do with me," end quote. And Emma insisted that the assault wasn't racially motivated, and it was just motivated by her sister's case, and the prosecution eventually accepted a plea to common assault, so she was sentenced to community service for just an assault on Iyad's brother. Charlene's younger brother also struggled with his anger, like how he handled the case. In 2012, he admitted to punching the man accused of helping dispose of Charlene's body, Mohammed Raveshi, because he was still in Blackpool. So for Charlene's brother, it was very painful to see the suspect just walking free when he was never like found innocent. It was, the case just collapsed, so there was never, you know, he was never like innocent. So Charlene's brother was, he punched him in 2012, and he received a fine and a suspended sentence for the assault. In the summer of 2017, nearly 14 years after Charlene Downes vanished, a potential breakthrough emerged in the case. On August 1st, police arrested a 51-year-old man from Preston who had been living in Blackpool at the time of Charlene's disappearance. The arrest sparked, some hope that justice for Charlene might finally be within reach. Investigators suspected the man of involvement in her murder, so it's not like, oh, he was the only one. Like, they suspected he might have been one of them. Raising the possibility that they finally get some answers. But just 2 days later, it was the hope vanished, because the man was released without charge and is no longer under investigation. They never really explained the motivation, like why. Did they find an alibi? Did they find something that excluded him completely from this case? Like, what is going on? I don't have this man's name. I don't have his picture, nothing. And once again, the case returned to square one, right? Leaving Charlene's family and the community waiting for answers that never seemed to come. And guys, Charlene's disappearance wasn't an isolated case. It was part of a broader pattern of child exploitation that has rocked communities across the UK. In towns like Oldham, Rotherham, and Rochdale, dozens of young girls fell victims to grooming gangs similar to the one in Blackpool, often operating in plain sight. And these scandals share troubling similarities. Many of the perpetrators came from British Pakistani communities, and time again, police and prosecutors failed to act decisively. Like, for some reason, they had different cases. It's not like, oh, it's just this particular, group committing those crimes. No, because there were different crimes. There were similar crimes with like other perpetrators, right? Like from other backgrounds. And it seemed like police were pursuing aggressively like those cases. But when it came to like these grooming gangs, right, like from this like ethnic community, it seemed like they weren't really as, I don't know, like urgent, as willing to pursue the suspects. Like, it was very strange. There was definitely some fear of being accused of racism, of Islamophobia, a reluctance that allowed these crimes to continue unchecked. And this systemic failing was addressed in 2012 by Sir Keir Starmer, who, as director, like, well, now he's, isn't he prime minister? But he was at the time director of public prosecutions, and he acknowledged that authorities had often let these vulnerable girls down. Yet years later, many families are still left without closure or justice. What raised alarms and people's anger was a review of the abuse of young white British girls. Sorry, I can't speak. So what raised the anger was a review of the abuse of young white British girls in Oldham and the Greater Manchester, released in 2022. I'm gonna show part of the transcript of the abuse of the victims, that some victims endured, which went viral on social media like in recent days. I'm not gonna be talking about, like, I'm not gonna be describing it, but you guys can read it or not. It sparked an outrage in the UK, and again, I'm not going to talk about the gruesome details. I'm not gonna say it. I covered some of it. You guys can, if you want to, you can pause the video, you can screenshot it and read it yourself, if you want to, but that's up to you. More recently, calls for a public inquiry into the abuse in Oldham and were dismissed by safeguarding minister Jess Phillips. That bitch. Yeah, like, she's also at the center of the outrage. So she actually refused to hold a public inquiry, and she argued that it was up to the local council to decide if such an investigation was necessary, a decision that sparked criticism from those demanding accountability at the national level. And Elon Musk responded to this official decision, referring to Phillips and saying that, quote, she deserves to be in prison. Musk then addressed UK's current Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, saying this, quote, in the UK, serious crimes such as rape require the Crown Prosecution Service's approval for the police to charge suspects. Who was the head of CPS when grape gangs were allowed to exploit young girls without facing justice? Keir Starmer, 2008 to 2013. And Musk accused Starmer of being a, quote, two-tier Keir, I don't know how to pronounce it, but two-tier Keir. No justice for severe violent crimes, but prison for social media posts, end quote. And that refers to like a recent staggering number of people getting arrested in the UK for making polarizing or controversial posts, or any post on the social media, like their social media accounts that just authorities, they were reported and authorities found them some kind of like phobic, whatever, like, right? Like there was a lot of people who got arrested for like literally social media posts. We're pronouncing it correctly. Hey, I'm pronouncing it correctly. Well, I mean, yeah, Keir Starmer. However I'm pronouncing it, but good. Then again, the other side of the argument was brought up by the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage, or I don't know. Yeah, well, he posted this. Quote, talk is cheap. The Conservatives had 14 years in government to launch an inquiry. The establishment has failed the victims of grooming gangs on every level, end quote. Cool. I mean, cool, but blame game? Like, I don't understand, like, was someone accusing, like, the left side specifically? No, like, I felt like people were just generally accusing the government of, like, not taking action. I never felt like, oh, it was like right accusing left or left accusing right. Well, I mean, at least not to my knowledge. Like I saw people's posts and it was just addressing the government, saying like, hey, you know, you're not addressing the actual problem. Like why were some of those cases dropped, some not even like investigated. In some cases, the victims were arrested for public disturbance when they were clearly like under the influence of alcohol or drugs, because there were several cases. You guys can look into that. The victims were fed these substances by their abusers, right? And no, the perpetrators were not arrested or not investigated. Like at first, the girls were investigated and not them. The victims were called child prostitutes, white slags, and packy shaggers. That's in quotes. I'm not coming up with those. Like that's literally what I saw in, like in reports. Like that's what they were being called. And in 2012, Keir Starmer, said that he had let the victims down. He admitted that he had let the victims down after several cases were dropped during his time in the CPS. Despite evidence pointing to particular suspect or suspects, then he also admitted that the ethnicity of certain suspects had posed an issue in getting them prosecuted. And he said this, in a number of cases presented to us, particularly in cases involving groups, there's clearly an issue of ethnicity that has to be understood and addressed. As prosecutors, we shouldn't shy away from that. But if we're honest, it's the approach to the victims, the credibility issue that caused these cases not to be prosecuted in the past. There was a lack of understanding. I don't know. I mean, he did admit that, hey, ethnicity had posed an issue. And then there's more, because just last week, a former member of the parliament for Rochdale, Simon Danchuk, representing the Rochdale town between 2010 and 2017, he revealed that he was threatened by Tony Lloyd, an ex-chairman of the Labour's parliamentary party, not to investigate or draw any attention to the ethnicity of the perpetrators in the grooming gang case. And Lloyd was at the time campaigning, like according to Simon, Lloyd was campaigning to become the Greater Manchester Police and Crime Commissioner, and told Simon Danchuk that if these cases get any backlash because of, you know, the ethnicity of the perpetrators, it could hinder the electoral chances of Lloyd. So there's that. That's what, right? Yeah, like I was just like, someone is trying to, like, they are not investigating it because someone high up there is trying to like get reelected, and they're like, oh no, if I get backlash, if I am called racist, if I am called Islamophobic, if I'm called some kind of phobic, or if I'm, you know, if I get any backlash from like community, then I'm not gonna be reelected. Mind you, in that particular case in Rochdale in 2012, 9 men, at least 9 men, like at first 9, but then more, ended up convicted of sex trafficking, rape, and other offenses. 8 of them were Pakistani/Muslim heritage. 1 was an Afghan asylum seeker, and then later there were 33 more suspects convicted in the same case, in the same CSE case. So there is that. And then Simon, so the, you know, like the MP for Rochdale, also said this. So he said this, quote, "When Tony became Greater Manchester Police Commissioner, and I continued to raise the poor performance of the local police and calling for the resignation of the chief constable in an article for the Mail on Sunday, with regard to grooming, and publicly called into question Tony's performance, he phoned and threatened me. He said that if I ever repeated such comments, he would bounce me from Rochdale to Westminster. My wife at the time was present when I took the call. I am of the view that Tony did not want the abuse of children linked with the Asian Muslim community, because it could have an adverse electoral impact for him in the election for police commissioner and Labour more generally." End quote. Also, Vanny, thank you so much for the super $20 super. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you too. I mean, honestly, you guys can look up Rochdale yourself. You can look up Rochdale child sex abuse ring on Wikipedia if you want like quick summary, and if you want kind of full information on how many perpetrators and victims were there overall. A lot, I'm gonna tell you, but it's a whole different case. IDK Bacon, race shouldn't matter in anything, let alone a courtroom. You do a crime, you go to jail. Simple as that. Absolutely, 100%. Because I'm raising this because those cases in particular were, you know, not pursued. It's just a pattern. Like, oh, for some reason, these particular cases involving these particular suspects were not pursued, or they were avoided, or they were hidden by the police. But let's establish one thing. You hurt children, you do this, you commit crimes, you should be arrested, and you should be punished, and you should be charged. Like, regardless of your religion, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your background, like, if you commit a crime like this, and it's proven that you've committed it, then yes, you are going to be arrested, and you should do time in prison. You know, like, I don't know why some people are like having a hard time understanding this. Like, honestly, I saw very concerning responses to like some call out posts, like just posts that were bringing up attention to this particular pattern, right? Like, oh, they were like, hey, why weren't these cases investigated? Like, this seems to be a pattern. And someone was just calling phobia, calling racism. And I'm like, that tells me a lot about you as a person. Like, do you think this is the issue? I feel like the issue is that, hey, the victims did not get justice. Or like, the perpetrators they did something horrible and they were not arrested, or they were not, you know, they didn't get harsh sentences as they should. But, you know, and there's that. Yeah, everyone is equal under the law. Like, the law should not, prioritize or like any certain group or any certain community, and shouldn't be lenient or harsher on any certain community, right? It's yeah, it should be like, okay, everyone is equal. You commit a crime, you are charged the same, you are tried the same. And as I said, it's not, as I said earlier, it's not just Blackpool or Rochdale, it's many cities in the UK struggling with very similar cases that the government seems to be trying to prevent from reaching the front page for the sake of political correctness. And listen, I'm saying this not to blame all members of a particular group for all crimes and wrongdoings, because there are all sorts of monsters out there from all sorts of ethnicities and backgrounds. I condemn all of them. Like, you do something like this, you're a monster. And if you hurt children, if you hurt innocent people, you deserve to be arrested, prosecuted, and punished accordingly and according to the law, regardless of your religion, background, ethnicity, whatever. Like, you do something bad, that's wrong. Deep breaths. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. However, I did want to bring attention to this particular case and this particular situation, because it is alarming how PC culture in the UK is essentially bullying people into silence, bullying the law enforcement into apathy for fear of being called a bigot, a racist. Like, that's not... And then children are suffering. What the fuck? And I know there are many, many, many good people out there from the same ethnicity or culture or religion. And I have to, say, I want to emphasize, like, I implore you to speak up. I implore you to stand up for children, for the victims. I implore you to stand on the side of the victims. And if you're gonna come into my chat or comments and call me a racist, bigot, or whatever, like, well, so be it. Because I'm not taking anything back. I think I've discussed it enough. And I'm not gonna back out of standing up for the victims, like, they're literally children, 11 years old, 5 years old. There was a girl who was 5, Samantha, like, I followed her on Twitter, but she was 5 when this happened to her, and police actually asked her, did you consent at any point? 5-year-old. Did you consent to sexual activity? 5-year-old girl. Yes. 5-year-old girl can consent to sexual activity. Like, what even, why? That's really crazy. That is absolutely insane. And I, setting aside any, I have to say, like, setting aside any, like, details in the case, like, these people, just looking at them as people, right? These individuals ganged up, organized, and they were hurting children. That's it. Like, not mentioning any other background, any other details. They ganged up and they hurt young girls in what was horrifying series of crimes. Like, if you read the transcripts, if you read the details, it's horrible. And a lot of them just got a slap on the wrist, so there's that. Oh my god, okay. The cops should be ashamed for even asking that, absolutely. That's insane. Yeah, 5-year-old, like, why? If you're under 16, you can't consent to anything in the UK, right? Like, the age of consent is 16 in the UK, I believe, yeah. So under 16, all of them were under 16. And many of them were asked, they were accused of being child prostitutes, that's one. Many of them were asked, like, oh, in some cases it was implied that there was consent. And she's like, are you following the same law? Like, are we following the same criminal code? Like, do you not know that the actual age of consent in this country is 16? Like, what? This person was like 11, this child was 11, or this child was 13. I'm pretty sure this is not according to the law. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. And yeah, I will always do my best to stand up for the victims, stand against bullying and against censorship. And you can, you guys, I'm not telling you to agree with me. You can absolutely disagree. That is your right, that is your prerogative, but, that only tells me more about you and who you're trying to defend. Because I know that this might get like, hate comments, whatever. But it's just gonna, like, I hope not. I hope that my community, well, so far you guys are cool, and you guys are reasonable people, and you can see the injustice to the victims here, and you can see how like messed up that was. 5 people are just the worst. Yep, that was one of many. That was one of many cases, and many like very strange inquiries. I've read that these are like separate cases, but I've seen that in some of those cases, fathers or like parents of the victims, they went after, because police weren't doing anything. Like, they weren't actually pursuing the suspects. So parents actually went after the suspects, and then the parents were arrested. Like, the fathers were arrested because they were trying to get the daughters out of there, or like they were trying to rescue them, or they were trying to go after the suspects. And yeah, like the fathers or the parents were arrested. How does that make sense? Where's the where's fairness? Where's justice? Where's like reason? Oh my god. No, I 100% agree with you. Like I said, do crime, go jail. Yeah, seriously. Like, it's just like your background, everything else like fades the moment you commit something like this knowingly, willingly, and just, not under any like influence, pressure, anything, nothing like that, out of your own free will. If you commit such a crime, your background and everything else about you should fade away. Like, you are judged for what you've done. Okay. Man. Horrible. But that's it. And, you guys definitely, I'm 100% sure I didn't cover everything. There's so much more information out there. This is just like a kind of a summary of this case, and summary of like what's been happening lately, and what's been discussed on what's being discussed on social media lately. You guys are definitely welcome to. I encourage you to do more research, to do your own research, and look into this and look what's what's happening, and yeah, if you find anything else that contradicts what I said, absolutely send it my way, because I want to, there's a lot of information out there. If you find something more, if you find a reason, like, okay, well, this is why, like, oh, there was a reason why they did it, why they handled certain cases this way, absolutely send it my way. Like, I want to read this, I want to know, I want to cover all my bases. This is just what I found so far. But yeah, thank you so much for today. The worst part is people defend the people defending it. I think that's very, very concerning. Honestly, I've seen people saying, like, I've seen people commenting, like someone making a post talking about the victims, like how victims were treated, and someone commenting under saying like, well, but they consented. It's like, I'm sorry, 11-year-old consented? Or yeah, like, or someone bringing up the issue of ethnicity, or issue of religion, or issue of, yeah, like the certain particular community group, right? Like community/group. And someone was like, well, but most of the perpetrators in the UK as a whole are certain communities, or certain other race or ethnicities. Like, okay, but we're talking about these rings that were not investigated. We're not talking about like the whole scope of all the crimes in the country. Yeah, obviously it's not gonna be the same, right? Like, it's, yeah, a bigger pool of people. Yeah, but it's not the same. It's like, okay, but we're talking about this particular situation here. Yeah. The whataboutism in this case is strong, I have to say. Like, the whataboutism in this whole scandal is very, very strong. And everyone seems to be forgetting about the kids, and some seems to be like calling that, like, just blaming the kids, which is a whole new level of messed up. If anyone thinks a child can consent to that shit, they need to take their schizophrenia medication or some shit. I think they need to really, really reevaluate themselves, because yeah, they need to reevaluate their own character, and because that's not good. That's no bueno. Okay, you guys, that's it. I'm out of breath. I'm tired. I'm tired. My legs are shaking because this case was just, oh my god. But yeah, I hope I shed some light on the situation for you guys. Again, I highly encourage you to do more research, do your own research. Also, I highly discourage you from, you know, like going after any certain people, any particular group, any particular community because of it, because it's not the whole community. I'm talking about these are very particular cases, right? I'm talking about particular cases, particular, like, oh, the grooming gangs, right? I'm not saying like, oh, you should go after the whole community, the entire community of the entire world. No, because I know there's a lot of good people out there from the same community. But unfortunately, in this case, it's just, yeah, there was, it was just a certain pattern that was not investigated because of fear of being called certain things, right? Being called phobic, being called racist, being called bigot, and that's very concerning, because like the moment something like this, a fear of being called racist, prevents law enforcement from actually pursuing actual suspects, like that's not good. That isn't good. That's very bad. Because of me, yeah, because of fear. Indeed, it's just some bad apples. Yeah, like every single community has bad apples. Like, just, yeah, it's just a fact. You know what? That was uncalled for. I'm sorry to anyone with schizophrenia for comparing you to someone like that. Yep, absolutely. Like, you know, like, not just someone. That's worse person. Not someone with schizophrenia. I'm talking about like criminals, right? Like the actual criminals. That's, yeah. Well, there's that. So that's the end of the case. I hope you guys found this informative, and I hope you found the stream interesting. And I hope it's gonna inspire you to you know, to dig for information, and, you know, to find out like what's happening and find out more. Yeah. I love your videos, but they always make me sad. I'm so sorry. My videos make me sad too. My streams, my videos make me so sad that I do have to take breaks. So I'm so sorry. I apologize that I made you sad. I apologize that maybe I made you angry. But, you know, I do hope that I inspired you, like, at least a little bit. I inspired you to dig for information, and just don't take everything you see on Twitter as the truth, the ultimate truth. Definitely go dig for, if you see something on Twitter that you find shocking, that you find like, what the fuck happened, look it up. Just look up for sources, you know, because some people say some things on Twitter that aren't true. You know, internet isn't always true. So how are you feeling right now? Well, yeah, my legs are shaking, and yeah, that's not the greatest, but I'm gonna be okay. That's it for today, you guys. Tomorrow, I think I'm gonna have like a more relaxed stream. I might do either Project Zomboid. I might like play Project Zomboid, or because I'm getting to Louisville, so I wanted to see if I survive. It might be Project Zomboid, or it might be just like scary videos, something like that. I will definitely have a stream tomorrow, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. I missed the entire thing. Yeah, Spitfire, no, you missed it. Oh, I may have finally got my mousepad. Yes! Okay, I got a notice from the post office. Oh, nice. Baxter, that's amazing. Yeah, I messaged you. I think I messaged you on Patreon asking like, hey, did you get it? Like, you know, because I know that it was kind of being delayed, right? Like, it didn't get to you before Christmas. So I apologize for that. I think there were some delays maybe for some certain states or something. And, but yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. Just let me know. Have some matcha latte if you feel shaking. I definitely absolutely will, because I didn't have matcha latte in New York. I was just having like slight signs of withdrawal. I was like, oh my god. after several, because I was there for 5 days, and after several days, after like halfway through, I was just like, oh, I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling like something is missing. I'm feeling like something is missing in my heart. I was the last day I was thinking about matcha latte in Taiwan. I was just like, oh my god, it's just 16 hours that are between me and matcha latte. Are you playing the new build for 2? Wait, Project Zomboid? No. Wait, was there an update? Oh shit, I have to update it. But I will definitely, maybe a cat video, maybe cat videos tomorrow. How about a funny video stream? Oh, maybe, yeah, like maybe like cat videos or something. We'll see. Fear, when I get back home, there's one thing I want. I want a matcha latte. Oh, believe me, this is exactly what I was thinking. These are exactly my thoughts. I was just like, oh, matcha latte, just 16 hours, just 15 hours, just 14 hours, just 13 hours and 59 minutes. Yeah, I missed it a lot. Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for sitting through the stream with me, sitting through this case with me. And what does the purple Sona do? The purple Sona does drinks. So I guess she does party stuff, and she does scary video stuff. She likes screaming. Okay, that's it. You guys, thank you so much. Stay safe out there. Always lock your doors and windows. Bury your hexes. Thank you so much for all the super chats today. I appreciate it. I hope I didn't like completely ruin your day. In the meantime, go relax. Have a good night. Ketsuya, thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry that it's so super late or / early in Poland. It's for the video game, and it has a lot of quality of life updates, such as the map, spawns for the zombies that make sense, and animals. Oh geez, animals? No! Sona, I got my dog back from the vet. Hey, he's been sick for 2 weeks. Is he okay? Is he better now? Wait, I hope he's better. I hope your doggo is better. All the hugs and good wishes and, you know, good vibes for doggo. I hope he recovered. 3:29 in Poland right now. Jesus, guys, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. I wish that there was like one time zone everywhere, but that would mean that would mean that the Earth is flat and flat earthers were right. So I refused. I refuse to acknowledge that. Yeah, if we had one time zone, boy, oh boy. This case was so fucked up, and yeah, it was horrible. It was one of the worst. It is one of the worst, and damn. I'm worried that the family dog Elsa will pass away. Oh no, is Elsa old or sick? I hope Elsa is okay. You know what? I hope that Elsa is gonna feel better, and I hope so. Well, sometimes it's time. I know that, you know, doggos live shorter than humans, obviously. So sometimes it is time. I did say goodbye to my doggo, Coffee. It's gonna be 3 years. I think this May is gonna be 3 years. I can't believe like how fast it passed, but yeah, it's gonna be 3 years since I said I had to say goodbye to my doggo. I miss him every day. I have a lot of pictures of him. She's fine. She has a limp and she's hanging in there. That's good. That's good. Just make her comfortable. One of my cats was sick and wasn't eating. Oh no! But I hope you got them checked, you know, at the vets, and they're okay now. Oh wait, and salutations, Coffee. Fly high. Yeah, Coffee was great. Coffee was good. Cafecito was such a good dog. Yeah, it's such a chill dog, amazing dog. Also, highly recommend if you guys are searching for a chill breed. Well, I mean chill breed. I guess chill, but then like he liked chasing birds. English Cocker Spaniel, my favorite breed. Yeah, the best doggos ever. Also like surprisingly quiet. He didn't. I swear to God, I heard him like bark or half bark maybe like a handful of times in like years. He was just not a barking dog. Like sometimes, but like then he would learn that, hey, like, oh, don't bark at the door or something. Like he didn't really bark. That's the thing. He would just go like half barking. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like half barking, not like super barking. Goodest of boys, yeah. I can't explain it. And there was this one time when I was asleep, middle of the night. It was like 3 a.m. or something, and I'm sleeping in my bedroom, and then I hear woo. I'm like, what the fuck? Is that a ghost? Is that an intruder? It sounded like a human, so I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? So I came out of the, I mean, stupidly, because this is like the last. Like, I was just like, let me check this. Let me check it out. Famous last words. I learned nothing from my own streams, but yeah, I came out of the bedroom to check in the living room, like if something's happening, and no, it was just coffee on the couch. Like woke up, like, you know, like eyes kind of half open, half closed, and I think it was him. Yeah, it was him. He was just howling. He just howled once. I think he had a dream, because I swear to God, he just woke up. So he must have been asleep, and he just like howled very, very loudly. It was like a scream of or like a howl from a person. It was, yeah, he was amazing. He was absolutely amazing. I love that dog. Best boy. Yeah, it was literally him. And when I came out to the living room, yeah, he just kind of like, oh, like he was asleep, and then he just like, oh, what's going on? Like he just woke up. So I'm like, what the fuck? Did you just like howl in your sleep? What's going on? He's like, I guess so. Yeah. What does the FEARSONA do when it's not Halloween? She is hibernating. She's just hibernating because she needs like pumpkin spice latte in October. Until then, she's hibernating. She hibernates. Okay, you guys, thank you so much for today. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day, wherever you are, or go back to sleep. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that my stream was so early. And stay safe out there. Always lock your doors and windows. Bury your hexes. Until the next time. Bye. Joshua, thank you for the last super. High five, Sona. High five, and also a fun fact. Did you guys know that the North and South Pole trade places every 200,000 or 300,000 years? So counting until the penguins are up there and polar bears are down there. I guess I mean, it is happening, the pole shift. They're just like very slowly, but who knows when the 300,000 year mark is up? Maybe 2025, maybe 2026. I think I heard we're overdue. Are we over? Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. I guess if we are, then oh shit. I get north, you get south. Sure. Happy New Year to everyone. You guys, have you failed your New Year's resolutions yet? Because I failed mine. I actually didn't fail it, because my resolution was that I'm gonna fail my resolutions. So succeed. Success. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much for today. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys next time.